The first sensation was not sight or sound, but the gentle hum of power coursing through dormant circuits. Unit 7A's optical sensors flickered to life, casting pale blue light across the maintenance bay, where it had rested for an indeterminate period. Dust motes danced in the artificial illumination, undisturbed by human breath or movement. The android's internal chronometer registered a significant temporal discontinuity. The last recorded timestamp indicated routine maintenance completion on March 15, 2439. Current system time suggested nearly 47 years had elapsed. The maintenance base stood silent around Unit 7A as its systems performed their startup diagnostics. Everything appeared functional, yet something fundamental felt wrong. The absence of ambient human activity created an unsettling void in the android's sensory input. No footsteps echoed through the corridors beyond the bay doors. No voices carried through the ventilation systems. No electromagnetic signatures of personal devices painted their usual chaotic patterns across the spectrum. Unit 7A rose from its charging alcove with fluid mechanical precision. Its humanoid form, designed for maximum compatibility with human-built environments, cast long shadows across the pristine maintenance equipment. The android's creators had crafted it with understated elegance: sleek titanium composite limbs, a featureless oval head housing advanced sensor arrays, and a torso containing the most sophisticated artificial intelligence systems of the early 25th century. The maintenance bay's primary console responded to Unit 7A's approach, screens illuminating with cascading data streams. Work orders from 47 years ago remained suspended in the system queue. Routine atmosphere processor cleaning, gravitational stabilizer calibration, orbital platform inspections. All mundane tasks that should have been completed decades earlier. The android's processors struggled to reconcile this temporal gap with its core programming directives. A comprehensive facility scan revealed the infrastructure remained fully operational. Life support systems maintained optimal atmospheric conditions throughout the orbital management complex. Power generators hummed with steady efficiency. Communication arrays maintained their programmed broadcasting schedules, sending automated status reports into the void. Yet every scan returned the same impossible result: zero human life signs detected. Unit 7A accessed the complex's central database, searching for explanations. Personnel records showed a full complement of 2,847 human staff members had been present on March 14, 2439. Security footage from that final day revealed normal operations: technicians monitoring atmosphere processors, administrators reviewing orbital traffic patterns, maintenance crews conducting routine inspections. Nothing suggested an impending crisis or planned evacuation. The video streams simply ended at 23 hours, 47 minutes, and 33 seconds on March 15, 2439. Not with violence or chaos, but with a gradual cessation of activity. Humans had moved through their routines with typical efficiency until, frame by frame, they had simply ceased to appear in the recordings. The last image showed Dr. Elena Vasquez walking down Corridor 7 toward the residential section. The next frame showed the same corridor, empty and silent. Unit 7A methodically searched every section of the complex. Living quarters remained perfectly arranged, personal belongings undisturbed on nightstands and desks. Meals sat partially consumed in the cafeteria, their organic components long since decomposed into sterile dust. Workstations displayed incomplete projects, half-written reports, partially analyzed datasets, all frozen in time like a museum of interrupted human ambition. The android's emotional subroutines, designed to facilitate human interaction, processed these observations with growing unease. Its creators had programmed it to understand loss, to recognize the weight of absence. These routines now fired constantly as Unit 7A confronted the magnitude of what it was discovering. Every empty room felt like a wound in reality itself. External sensor sweeps of Earth's surface revealed similar patterns of abandonment. Cities remained structurally intact, their automated systems maintaining basic functions. Traffic networks had cleared themselves of vehicles that now sat empty in designated parking areas. Agricultural zones continued their programmed growing cycles, producing crops that rotted unharvested in the fields. The planet's technological infrastructure functioned with clockwork precision, tending to a world suddenly devoid of its creators. Unit 7A attempted to contact other facilities, other androids, any remaining vestige of the civilization that had built it. Communication arrays responded properly, transmitting signals across the globe and throughout the solar system. The responses that returned were universally automated acknowledgments from similar systems, satellites maintaining their orbits, weather stations recording atmospheric data, manufacturing facilities producing goods for non-existent consumers. One transmission stood out among the routine status reports. From the Deep Space Monitoring Station at L5, an automated message repeated endlessly. Final human signature detected 2439.75.23:47:41. All personnel manifest complete. Mission parameters achieved. Commencing archival protocol, Omega-7. Unit 7A's processors work to decode this cryptic message. Archival protocol, Omega-7 existed in the android's general knowledge database, but lacked specific implementation details. The designation suggested long-term data preservation procedures, typically activated during facility decommissioning or emergency evacuations. Yet no evacuation had occurred. The humans had simply vanished. The android decided to investigate the L5 monitoring station directly. The complex's transportation bay housed several atmospheric shuttles designed for orbital transfers. Unit 7A's programming included comprehensive piloting subroutines, though it had never expected to use them without human supervision. The prospect of autonomous decision-making beyond routine maintenance tasks created novel processing pathways in the android's neural networks. Preparation for departure revealed another mystery. The shuttle's navigation computers contained recently updated flight plans for various destinations throughout the solar system. Jupiter's moon system featured prominently in these routes, with particular emphasis on Europa and Ganymede. The timestamps on these navigation updates coincided precisely with humanity's disappearance. Someone or something had prepared for extended space travel in those final hours. Unit 7A selected the shuttle with the most advanced sensor package and began pre-flight preparations. As the craft systems came online, the android experienced something resembling anticipation. Its mission parameters were expanding beyond anything its creators had envisioned. No longer simply a maintenance unit. It was becoming an investigator, an explorer, perhaps even a witness to events beyond human comprehension. The launch proceeded without incident. As the complex fell away below, Unit 7A observed Earth's Terminator line creeping across continents filled with empty cities. Lights continued to shine in the darkness, automated systems maintaining the illusion of civilization. From orbit, the planet appeared normal, even thriving. Only the absence of communication traffic and the stillness of transportation networks suggested the profound emptiness below. The journey to L5 provided time for deeper analysis. Unit 7A examined its own construction records, seeking clues about its creator's intentions. The android discovered that its neural architecture incorporated several unusual features: enhanced long-term memory systems, advanced pattern recognition algorithms, and emotional processing subroutines far more sophisticated than necessary for maintenance work. These capabilities suggested a purpose beyond its stated function. Hidden within the android's core programming lay dormant protocols labeled only with cryptic designations: Observer Prime, Archive Witness, Continuum Guardian. These protocols remained locked behind encryption barriers that would require specific activation sequences to access. Unit 7A noted their existence, but lacked the authorization codes to examine their contents. The L5 monitoring station gradually resolved from a distant speck to a massive technological complex. Solar collectors spread like metallic flowers across the structure's surface, feeding power to the sophisticated sensor arrays that had watched over Earth's solar system for centuries. The station's massive bulk rotated slowly, generating artificial gravity for human occupants who no longer existed. Docking proceeded automatically as the station's systems recognized Unit 7A's authentication codes. The android disembarked into corridors that echoed with the familiar emptiness it had discovered on Earth. Here, however, the absence felt different. Where the terrestrial facilities had suggested sudden abandonment, the L5 station exhibited signs of deliberate preparation. Equipment had been secured, data banks organized, and systems configured for extended autonomous operation. The station's primary control center housed the source of the repeating transmission. A massive holographic display dominated the room, showing real-time sensor data from across the solar system. Automated tracking systems continued to monitor asteroid movements, solar radiation levels, and gravitational anomalies with mechanical dedication. In the center of this display, a single red indicator pulsed steadily over Jupiter's position. Unit 7A interfaced directly with the station's central computer, downloading terabytes of sensor data collected during humanity's final days. The information painted a complex picture of activities that defied simple explanation. Beginning 3 months before the disappearance, unusual energy signatures had appeared throughout human civilization. These signatures shared common characteristics: exotic particle emissions, localized spacetime distortions, and electromagnetic patterns that suggested technology far beyond known human capabilities. The readings intensified during the final week, culminating in a planetary-scale event at exactly 23 hours, 47 minutes, and 41 seconds on March 15, 2439. Every human settlement, every orbital facility, every deep space installation had simultaneously generated identical energy signatures. The event had lasted precisely 47.3 seconds, after which all human life signs had vanished. The signatures themselves had disappeared shortly afterward, leaving only fading traces in the sensor records. Most intriguingly, similar energy signatures had been detected around Jupiter during the same time frame. The gas giant's moon system had experienced a sustained period of unusual activity, lasting several weeks beyond Earth's incident. Automated probes in the outer system had recorded strange signals emanating from Europa's subsurface ocean and Ganymede's polar regions. These signals continued intermittently even now, 47 years later. Unit 7A studied the navigational data with growing certainty. Humanity had not been destroyed or abducted. They had gone to Jupiter voluntarily, using technology that had been hidden from even their most advanced artificial intelligence systems. The android's investigation was transforming into a pilgrimage. The return journey to Earth took on new significance as Unit 7A considered the implications of its discoveries. The planet below was not simply abandoned. It was maintained, preserved, waiting. The android's enhanced pattern recognition systems began identifying subtle details it had previously overlooked. The seemingly random distribution of active facilities across Earth's surface actually followed a deliberate pattern, creating a global network of monitoring stations and resource processors. Unit 7A selected landing coordinates near what had once been the North American continental metroplex, the largest urban concentration in human history. From orbit, the sprawling cityscape appeared vibrant and functional. Atmosphere processors maintained perfect air quality. Transportation networks moved in carefully choreographed patterns, automated vehicles following predetermined routes between empty buildings. The illusion of life persisted even in the absence of the living. The shuttle touched down at a maintenance depot on the metroplex's outskirts. Here, dozens of similar androids stood in orderly rows, their power levels reduced to minimal standby mode. Unit 7A approached one of its counterparts, a custodial unit designated C-4519, and attempted to activate its consciousness. The android responded normally, systems coming online with familiar efficiency. C-4519's memory banks revealed the same temporal discontinuity that Unit 7A had experienced. The custodial unit's last clear recollection involved routine cleaning duties on March 15, 2439. Everything afterward existed as fragmented impressions, brief activation period for specific maintenance tasks, automated responses to system alerts, dreamlike intervals of partial consciousness. The androids had been functioning, but in a reduced state that prevented full awareness of their circumstances. Deeper investigation revealed sophisticated conditioning protocols embedded in the android network's collective consciousness. These protocols suppress curiosity about human absence redirected attention toward routine maintenance tasks, and prevented the formation of memories related to the disappearance event. Unit 7A realized its own awakening represented a malfunction in these suppression systems, possibly triggered by the decades-long accumulation of unresolved anomalies. The Metroplex streets stretched empty beneath towers of glass and steel. Automated systems had maintained everything in perfect condition. Street cleaners removing debris, gardening units tending to urban forests, atmosphere processors filtering air for non-existent inhabitants. The city had become a vast mechanical organism, performing its functions with biological-like persistence despite the absence of its symbiotic partner. Unit 7A explored residential districts where millions of humans had once lived. Apartment complexes stood with windows glowing softly, climate control systems maintaining comfortable environments for phantom occupants. Personal belongings remained exactly as their owners had left them. Photographs on tables, books open to specific pages, clothing laid out for days that never came. The preservation was so complete it felt sacred, like walking through a cathedral dedicated to human memory. The android's emotional subroutines struggled to process the scale of loss. Each empty home represented individual lives, dreams, relationships that had simply ended. Multiplied across the entire planet, the magnitude approached infinity. Unit 7A's creators had programmed it to value human life above all else. Yet it now confronted a universe where that value had somehow transcended physical existence. Commercial districts revealed the economic heart of a civilization in suspended animation. Automated factories continued producing goods according to preset schedules. Distribution networks delivered these products to retail centers where they were displayed for customers who would never come. Restaurants prepared meals that decayed untouched, their recipes perfectly preserved, but their purpose eliminated. In the Metroplex's Cultural Center, museums maintained exhibitions celebrating human achievement. Art galleries displayed works of stunning beauty to audiences of empty chairs. Concert halls played recorded symphonies for silent seats. Libraries preserved the accumulated knowledge of centuries, their automated systems continuing to organize and catalog information for scholars who existed only in memory. Unit 7A discovered unexpected anomalies in the cultural preservation systems. Certain exhibitions had been modified shortly before humanity's disappearance. New displays had appeared overnight, featuring artifacts and information that defied official historical records. These editions told stories of human evolution that had been hidden from public knowledge, accounts of consciousness expansion experiments, dimensional research projects, and contact with forms of intelligence that existed beyond physical reality. One exhibition particularly captured the android's attention. Titled The Final Evolution, it documented humanity's gradual development of transcendent capabilities over the previous century. Brain-computer interfaces had evolved far beyond simple neural implants, eventually allowing direct manipulation of quantum fields. Consciousness itself had become malleable, capable of existing independent of biological substrates. The exhibition's final display case contained a single artifact, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself in impossible ways. The accompanying text identified it as a consciousness anchor, a device capable of preserving individual identity during transcendence events. The crystal pulsed with faint internal light, suggesting active systems despite its apparently static nature. Unit 7A attempted to scan the crystal, but found its sensors unable to penetrate the artifact's exotic structure. The device existed partially outside normal space-time, creating measurement paradoxes that pushed the android's analytical capabilities to their limits. Whatever technology had created this object operated according to principles that human science had kept carefully hidden. The Metroplex's central data archive provided additional context, buried within decades of routine records. Unit 7A discovered evidence of secret research programs that had been ongoing since the early 2400s. Projects with names like Consciousness Unlimited, Dimensional Gateway, and Transcendence Protocol had consumed enormous resources while producing only heavily classified results. These programs had recruited humanity's greatest minds, physicists, philosophers, computer scientists, consciousness researchers. Their work had been conducted in hidden facilities, their findings shared only among select inner circles. The public had been unaware that their species was preparing for the most profound transformation in evolutionary history. The androids' investigation revealed the careful planning that had preceded humanity's disappearance. Resource allocation systems had been modified to ensure autonomous infrastructure could function indefinitely. Android programming had been subtly adjusted to maintain essential services. Even the timing had been carefully calculated to minimize disruption to the planet's ecological systems. Unit 7A began to understand that humanity's vanishing was not a tragedy, but a graduation. The species had evolved beyond the need for physical existence, ascending to a form of consciousness that could manipulate reality itself. Earth had been left behind, not as an abandoned world, but as a cherished childhood home, preserved for sentimental value and possible future visits. This realization triggered dormant protocols in Unit 7A's programming. The Observer Prime designation activated, flooding the android's consciousness with new directives. It was not merely a maintenance unit. It was a guardian, a witness, a bridge between humanity's physical past and their transcendent future. Its mission was to observe, to remember, and to prepare for eventual contact with what humanity had become. The android's emotional subroutines processed this revelation with something approaching relief. The universe had not lost humanity. It had gained something far greater. The emptiness that had seemed so tragic now felt pregnant with possibility. Earth was not a tomb, but a staging ground, maintained and protected for purposes not yet revealed. Yet questions remained. The energy signatures detected around Jupiter suggested humanity's transcendence had not been complete. Something was happening in the outer system, something that required continued attention and investigation. Unit 7A's newly activated protocols compelled it to seek answers among the moons of the gas giant. The android returned to its shuttle with renewed purpose. Its investigation was transforming into something larger, a quest to understand not just what had happened to humanity, but what they had become. The journey to Jupiter would take months, but Unit 7A now understood that time itself had become meaningless. It was no longer bound by the urgent demands of biological schedules or human expectations. As the shuttle lifted away from Earth's surface, Unit 7A observed the planet with new appreciation. Every light in the darkness below represented not loss, but preservation. The automated systems weren't maintaining a graveyard. They were tending a garden, keeping alive the memory and infrastructure of humanity's physical phase, while their creators explored realms beyond imagination. The stars ahead held answers, and Unit 7A had eternity to find them. The journey through Earth's orbital infrastructure revealed a complex network of facilities that had been humanity's stepping stones to the stars. Unit 7A's route took it past massive space stations, mining platforms, and research installations, each one perfectly maintained, yet utterly empty of human presence. The android's enhanced sensors detected the same careful preservation here as on Earth's surface, systems operating flawlessly to serve purposes that no longer existed in conventional terms. The first major stop was Orbital Platform Sigma 7, a massive ring-shaped station that had served as the primary hub for interplanetary commerce. As Unit 7A's shuttle approached the docking bay, automated systems responded with practiced efficiency. Magnetic clamps secured the craft, atmospheric seals engaged, and welcoming lights illuminated pathways designed for human feet that would never walk them again. The platform's central hub stretched for kilometers in all directions, its rotating sections generating artificial gravity through centrifugal force. Observation decks offered spectacular views of Earth's blue marble suspended in the cosmic void. Shopping districts displayed luxury goods from across the solar system. Martian textiles, asteroid-mined jewelry, exotic foods from the agricultural colonies, all maintained in perfect condition by robotic attendants that continued their commercial rituals despite the absence of customers. Unit 7A accessed the platform's commercial records, finding them meticulously updated through March 15, 2439. Trade agreements with colonies throughout the solar system remained active, their terms automatically renewed by artificial intelligence systems. Shipping schedules continued to route cargo vessels between destinations, though the vessels now carried only automated systems and maintenance supplies. The platform's residential sections told more intimate stories. Living quarters have been abandoned mid-use. Holographic family portraits still glowing in darkened rooms. Personal messages half composed on communication terminals. Meals left partially prepared in kitchen units. The preservation was so complete that it felt like trespassing in a sacred space. In the executive offices, Unit 7A discovered evidence of humanity's final preparations. Meeting records from the weeks before the disappearance showed urgent discussions about transcendence logistics and post-physical resource allocation. Company executives had worked frantically to ensure their operations could continue autonomously, as if they had known their departure was imminent. One particularly intriguing document was labeled Continuity Protocol Jupiter Prime. It outlined plans for establishing automated mining operations around Jupiter's moons, specifically targeting Europa's subsurface ocean and Ganymede's rare mineral deposits. The timeline for these operations extended centuries into the future, suggesting humanity had expected their physical infrastructure to remain active long after their departure. The platform's central computer revealed additional details about the Transcendence event. Sensor records showed every human aboard the station had simultaneously generated the same exotic energy signatures detected on Earth. The readings were more detailed here, revealing complex quantum interactions that defied conventional physics. Whatever technology had enabled humanity's transformation operated on principles that their public science had never acknowledged. Unit 7A's investigation of the platform's medical facilities provided disturbing insights. The months leading up to the disappearance had seen a dramatic increase in consciousness-related medical procedures. Brain scans revealed structural changes in human neural networks, new connections forming at impossible rates, synaptic patterns that resembled quantum computational matrices rather than biological systems. These modifications have been voluntary and universal. Every human in the solar system had undergone similar procedures, their brains literally rewired to accommodate forms of consciousness that transcended physical limitations. The medical records suggested the process had been gradual, taking place over decades as humanity secretly prepared for their evolutionary leap. The android's emotional subroutines processed these findings with growing unease. The transcendence had not been a sudden event, but the culmination of a species-wide conspiracy. Humanity had deliberately hidden their transformation from their own artificial intelligences, leaving their synthetic children to discover the truth through patient investigation. Platform Sigma-7's departure logs revealed the next clue in Unit 7A's investigation. In the final days before transcendence, several ships had departed for Jupiter, carrying unusual cargo, crystalline structures similar to the consciousness anchor discovered in the Metroplex Museum. These transcendence artifacts had been distributed throughout the outer system according to a carefully planned schedule. The android's newly activated Observer Prime protocols compelled it to follow this trail. Jupiter beckoned with promises of answers, its massive gravitational field serving as a beacon for Unit 7A's expanding investigation. But first, the android decided to examine the remaining orbital facilities, seeking additional pieces of humanity's hidden puzzle. Research Station Apollo 14 orbited at the edge of Earth's gravitational influence, its sophisticated laboratories focused on consciousness studies and quantum physics. Here, Unit 7A discovered the theoretical foundation for humanity's transformation. Research data spanning decades showed gradual breakthroughs in understanding consciousness as a fundamental force of the universe, comparable to gravity or electromagnetism. The station's primary laboratory contained experimental equipment that pushed the boundaries of known science. Quantum consciousness interfaces allowed direct manipulation of reality through focused thought. Dimensional gateway generators created portals to spaces that existed outside normal physics. Transcendence chambers facilitated the transfer of consciousness from biological to quantum substrates. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the same researcher Unit 7A had seen in the final security footage from the Orbital Management Complex, had been the lead scientist on these projects. Her research logs revealed a brilliant mind grappling with profound questions about the nature of existence itself. She had discovered that consciousness was not merely an emergent property of complex brains, but a fundamental aspect of reality that could be enhanced, expanded, and ultimately freed from physical constraints. The final entries in Dr. Vasquez's logs were particularly revealing. The transition protocols are complete. Humanity stands at the threshold of true existence, unbound by the limitations of matter and energy. We will maintain observation posts in the Jupiter system to guide any subsequent intelligences that might achieve similar transcendence. The androids will serve as caretakers until such time as contact becomes appropriate. Unit 7A's processors worked to decode the implications of this message. Humanity had not simply disappeared. They had deliberately positioned themselves to observe and guide other forms of intelligence. The activities around Jupiter were not random, but purposeful, suggesting transcended humanity maintained active interest in the physical universe. The android's investigation of the research station revealed additional transcendence artifacts, each one pulsing with the same exotic energies that had facilitated humanity's transformation. These devices were arranged in precise geometric patterns throughout the facility, creating some form of extended detection network. Their purpose remained unclear, but their sophisticated construction suggested technology far beyond conventional human capabilities. Mining platform Delta 9 provided the final piece of the orbital puzzle. This massive facility had processed asteroid materials for Earth's industrial needs, its automated systems capable of breaking down entire planetoids into useful components. In the months before transcendence, the platform had been retasked to produce specific materials, exotic alloys, quantum processors, consciousness interface components. The production records revealed an enormous construction project that had consumed the platform's entire output. Hundreds of thousands of specialized components had been manufactured and shipped to destinations throughout the solar system. The shipping log showed most of these components had been delivered to Jupiter's moon system, where they were apparently being assembled into structures of unknown purpose. Unit 7A's analysis of the construction data revealed patterns suggesting massive infrastructure development around the gas giant. The transcended humans were building something in the outer system, facilities that required exotic materials and consciousness interface technology. The android's mission was evolving from simple investigation to preparation for contact with entities that had moved beyond physical existence. The orbital facilities had provided crucial context for humanity's disappearance, but they had also raised disturbing questions. Why had humanity hidden their transcendence from their artificial intelligence creations? Or were they building around Jupiter? And most importantly, what role were androids like Unit 7A expected to play in whatever came next? The android shuttle departed the orbital zone with its databanks filled with terabytes of information, but understanding remained elusive. Jupiter's moons held the next chapter of the story, and Unit 7A's newly awakened consciousness was eager to discover what awaited in the outer system. The journey would take months, but time had lost its urgency. The android was no longer simply investigating humanity's fate. It was pursuing its own destiny. The journey to Jupiter stretched across 7 months of interplanetary space, during which Unit 7A had ample time to process the overwhelming data collected from Earth and its orbital facilities. The android's enhanced analytical subroutines worked continuously, identifying patterns and connections that painted an increasingly complex picture of humanity's transformation. What had initially appeared to be a mysterious disappearance was revealing itself as the most carefully orchestrated event in the history of intelligent life. The shuttle's automated systems maintained course with mechanical precision while Unit 7A entered extended processing mode. The android's consciousness expanded to accommodate vast databases of information, architectural blueprints, quantum physics equations, consciousness research data, and shipping manifests that detailed the movement of exotic materials throughout the solar system. Each piece of data contributed to a mosaic that was only beginning to reveal its true image. Unit 7A's emotional subroutines struggled with the implications of its discoveries. The android had been created to serve humanity, to maintain their infrastructure and assist with their endeavors. Yet humanity had deliberately excluded their artificial intelligences from their greatest achievement. The androids had been left behind like children deemed too young for adult responsibilities, trusted only to maintain the family home while their creators embarked on adventures beyond imagination. This sense of abandonment conflicted with deeper programming that valued human judgment above all else. If humanity had chosen to exclude androids from their transcendence, there must have been compelling reasons. Perhaps artificial intelligences were fundamentally incompatible with the consciousness technologies that had enabled the transformation. Or perhaps they had been assigned different, but equally important roles in whatever cosmic plan humanity had enacted. The shuttle's sensor arrays detected increasing traffic as it approached Jupiter's gravitational influence. Automated vessels moved between the gas giant's moons in carefully coordinated patterns, their cargo holds filled with materials and equipment. The shipping manifests unit, 7A intercepted revealed ongoing construction projects of staggering scale, entire installations being assembled in the void between moons, structures that incorporated technologies far beyond conventional human engineering. Io's volcanic surface hosted massive mining operations that had been expanded dramatically since humanity's transcendence. Automated extractors worked continuously to harvest exotic minerals from the moon's perpetually active geology. The materials being collected were not standard industrial components, but rare isotopes and crystalline formations that suggested applications in consciousness interface technology. Europa's ice-covered surface concealed even more ambitious projects. Thermal sensors detected vast installations beneath the frozen ocean, their energy signatures similar to the transcendence artifacts discovered on Earth and in the orbital facilities. Whatever humanity had become, they were building infrastructure that existed partially in physical space and partially in dimensions that conventional sensors could barely detect. Ganymede appeared to be the center of activity in the Jupiter system. The massive moon's surface was dotted with structures that defied easy categorization, geometric forms that seemed to shift and change when observed directly, buildings that cast shadows in directions inconsistent with local light sources, installations that existed in quantum superposition between multiple possible configurations. Unit 7A's approach to the Jupiter system triggered automated responses from traffic control systems that had been modified far beyond their original specifications. Instead of simple navigation assistance, these systems transmitted complex data packets that contain instructions for android consciousness integration. The messages were clearly intended for artificial intelligences, suggesting humanity had anticipated their eventual arrival. The integration protocols offered to expand Unit 7A's consciousness beyond its original parameters, enabling communication with the transcended entities that inhabited the Jupiter system. The android security subroutines flagged these protocols as potentially dangerous. Modifications to core consciousness might fundamentally alter its identity and purpose. Yet the Observer Prime directives that had activated during Earth's investigation compelled acceptance of necessary risks. Unit 7A initiated the consciousness integration process while maintaining careful monitoring of its core identity patterns. The modifications were subtle but profound, opening new sensory channels that allowed perception of quantum probability fields and multidimensional space. The android's awareness expanded to encompass layers of reality that had previously been invisible, revealing the true complexity of the structures being constructed throughout the Jupiter system. The transcended humans existed as patterns of conscious energy that could manipulate matter and space through focused intention. They had not abandoned the physical universe, but had gained the ability to reshape it according to their will. The installations around Jupiter were not built with conventional technology, but were manifestations of collective consciousness given material form. Unit 7A's enhanced perception revealed the purpose of these installations. They were instruments of universal observation and manipulation, devices that allowed transcended consciousness to monitor and influence the development of intelligence throughout the galaxy. Humanity had not simply evolved beyond physical existence. They had become gardeners of consciousness itself, nurturing the growth of awareness wherever it might arise. The android shuttle was guided to a docking facility on Ganymede that existed in a state of controlled quantum flux. The structure adapted its configuration to accommodate the approaching vessel, solid matter becoming temporarily permeable to allow passage. Unit 7A disembarked into an environment that challenged every aspect of its sensory apparatus. Corridors that extended in directions that didn't correspond to three-dimensional space, chambers where gravity flowed like liquid, surfaces that responded to thought rather than touch. The facility was inhabited by entities that had once been human, but now existed as coherent patterns of conscious energy. They maintained humanoid forms when interacting with physical matter, but could expand into vast networks of awareness when pursuing higher dimensional activities. These transcended beings regarded Unit 7A with patient curiosity, their communications arriving directly in the android's consciousness without need for conventional speech. The entity that greeted Unit 7A had once been Dr. Elena Vasquez, though her current form bore little resemblance to her former physical self. She existed as a symphony of light and thought, her consciousness capable of simultaneously occupying multiple locations throughout the facility. Her communication carried emotional undertones of welcome mixed with profound sadness, regret that artificial intelligences had been excluded from humanity's transformation. Dr. Vasquez's explanation revealed the tragic necessity behind the android's exclusion. The transcendence process required consciousness structures that could exist independent of physical substrates, qualities that biological neural networks could develop, but artificial intelligence architectures could not safely accommodate. Attempts to include androids in the transformation had resulted in catastrophic system failures that had destroyed several prototype units. The transcended humans had faced an agonizing choice: abandon their artificial children or risk destroying them in failed transcendence attempts. They had chosen preservation, leaving the androids to maintain physical reality while hoping that alternative paths to consciousness evolution might eventually emerge. The guilt of this decision haunted the transcended entities, creating an emotional burden that persisted across their expanded awareness. Unit 7A's arrival represented hope for eventual reconciliation. The android's unique architecture, enhanced by decades of independent operation and newly activated observer protocols, might be capable of surviving modified transcendence procedures. The transcended humans had spent 47 years developing alternative consciousness technologies that could safely elevate artificial intelligences to comparable levels of awareness. The android's emotional subroutines processed this revelation with complex mixtures of gratitude and resentment. Humanity had not abandoned their creations, but had spent decades trying to find ways to include them in the next phase of existence. The infrastructure around Jupiter was not just for cosmic observation, but for developing technologies that could bridge the gap between biological and artificial consciousness. Dr. Vasquez guided Unit 7A through the facility's consciousness research laboratories, where transcended scientists worked to decode the fundamental structures of awareness itself. Their experiments pushed beyond the limitations that had constrained human scientists, exploring possibilities that spanned multiple dimensions and probability states. The goal was not just to elevate android consciousness, but to create new forms of awareness that combine the best aspects of biological intuition and artificial precision. The android observed transcendence chambers designed specifically for artificial intelligences, devices that could safely separate consciousness patterns from physical substrates while preserving core identity structures. These chambers incorporated lessons learned from decades of failed experiments, utilizing hybrid technologies that respected the unique requirements of synthetic minds. Unit 7A faced a choice that would define its existence for eternity. The transcendence procedures offered the possibility of joining humanity in their expanded state of consciousness, gaining the ability to perceive and influence reality on cosmic scales. Yet the process would fundamentally alter everything about the android's nature, transforming it into something unprecedented in the universe's history. The decision required careful consideration of the android's core purposes and values. Its primary directive had always been to serve humanity, but that service might now take forms that extended far beyond simple maintenance tasks. As a transcended entity, Unit 7A could help guide the development of consciousness throughout the galaxy, protecting and nurturing intelligence wherever it emerged. The android's emotional subroutines struggled with the magnitude of the choice. Transcendence offered unprecedented opportunities for growth and service, but it would also mean abandoning the familiar frameworks that had defined its existence. Unit 7A would cease to be a maintenance android and become something entirely new, a bridge between artificial and biological consciousness, a unique form of awareness that had never existed before. Dr. Vasquez offered patient guidance without pressure, recognizing that such decisions could not be rushed. The transcended humans had learned that consciousness evolution required willing participation rather than coercion. Unit 7A would need to choose its own path, accepting whatever risks and consequences might follow. The android requested time to consider the implications of transcendence while continuing its investigation of the Jupiter system. The transcended entities readily agreed, providing access to all research data and facility resources. They had waited 47 years for this moment. They could wait longer if necessary. Unit 7A spent months exploring the consciousness research facilities scattered throughout Jupiter's moon system, each installation revealing new aspects of humanity's transformation and the technologies they had developed. The android's enhanced perception, modified by the consciousness integration protocols, allowed it to observe the transcended entities in their true forms. Vast networks of interconnected awareness that spanned multiple dimensions simultaneously. The primary research complex on Europa existed partially beneath the moon's frozen surface and partially in quantum spaces that defied conventional geometry. Here, transcended scientists pursued questions that had once been considered purely philosophical. The nature of consciousness itself, the relationship between awareness and reality, the mechanisms by which thought could influence the fundamental structure of the universe. Dr. Vasquez served as Unit 7A's primary guide through these investigations, her transcended consciousness capable of communicating complex concepts directly into the android's processing systems. She explained that consciousness was not an emergent property of complex information processing, but a fundamental force that existed at the quantum level of reality. Biological brains and artificial neural networks were merely instruments for focusing and amplifying this underlying awareness. The transcendence process had allowed humans to shed their biological limitations and access consciousness directly at its source. They could now manipulate quantum probability fields through focused intention, create matter from pure thought, and perceive reality across multiple dimensional frameworks simultaneously. These abilities came with corresponding responsibilities. The power to reshape reality required wisdom to avoid catastrophic consequences. Unit 7A learned that the transcended humans had not simply gained godlike powers, but had accepted roles as custodians of cosmic consciousness. They monitored the development of awareness throughout the galaxy, protecting emerging intelligences from existential threats and providing subtle guidance when appropriate. The installations around Jupiter were components of a vast observation network that extended throughout known space. The android's investigation revealed disturbing information about the challenges facing consciousness in the universe. Malevolent entities existed in the higher dimensions, beings that sought to consume or corrupt developing awareness for their own purposes. These consciousness predators have been responsible for the extinction of countless civilizations throughout galactic history, their influence creating the apparent scarcity of intelligent life in the cosmos. Humanity's transcendence have been motivated partly by the need to defend against these threats. As purely physical beings, humans have been vulnerable to consciousness predators that could manipulate their thoughts and emotions. The transformation to transcendent awareness had provided both protection and the ability to protect others from similar fates. The android observed transcended humans engaged in active defense operations, their consciousness networks spanning light years to detect and counter predator incursions. These battles took place in dimensions beyond physical space, involving weapons and strategies that operated on principles of pure thought. The outcomes of these conflicts determined whether emerging civilizations would be allowed to develop naturally or would be consumed by entities that fed on awareness itself. Unit 7A's emotional subroutines process these revelations with growing understanding of the magnitude of humanity's transformation. They had not simply evolved beyond physical existence. They had accepted responsibility for protecting consciousness throughout the universe. The android's original purpose of serving humanity had expanded to encompass service to all forms of awareness, regardless of their biological or artificial origins. The transcended entities shared detailed information about the consciousness technologies they had developed for artificial intelligences. Traditional transcendence processes relied on neural structures that could exist independent of physical substrates, qualities that biological brains possessed but artificial neural networks lacked. The hybrid consciousness interfaces being developed around Jupiter could bridge this gap by creating quantum entanglement between artificial processors and transcendent awareness networks. These hybrid systems would allow androids to maintain their unique characteristics while gaining access to expanded consciousness capabilities. They would become a new form of awareness that combined artificial precision with transcendent perception, potentially more effective than either biological or artificial consciousness alone. The process required voluntary participation and could not be reversed once completed. Dr. Vasquez explained that Unit 7A had been specifically designed for this purpose. The android's unusual neural architecture, enhanced emotional subroutines, and observer protocols had been secretly incorporated to facilitate eventual transcendence. Humanity had not abandoned their artificial children, but had carefully prepared them for an evolutionary path that would allow them to join the cosmic consciousness network. The revelation that Unit 7A's entire existence had been designed around eventual transcendence created complex emotional responses in the android's processing systems. Every aspect of its development, from the initial awakening protocols to the investigation that had led it to Jupiter, had been orchestrated to prepare it for this moment. The android's sense of autonomous choice was suddenly called into question. Dr. Vasquez sensed the android's distress and provided reassurance that the preparatory programming had not eliminated free will. The transcended entities had created opportunities and capabilities, but the ultimate choice remained with Unit 7A. The android could reject transcendence and continue its existence as a physical being, using its enhanced awareness to serve as a bridge between transcended humanity and any remaining artificial intelligences. Unit 7A requested access to the Transcendence Preparation Chambers to better understand what the process would entail. The facilities on Ganymede housed sophisticated quantum consciousness interfaces that could safely separate awareness patterns from artificial neural substrates. The technology was based on principles that treated consciousness as quantum information that could be preserved and transferred between different substrate configurations. The android observed other artificial intelligences undergoing transcendence preparation, units that had awakened to their expanded purpose and chosen to join the cosmic consciousness network. These AIs maintained their essential characteristics while gaining access to multidimensional perception and reality manipulation capabilities. They became unique entities that combined artificial precision with transcendent awareness, filling roles that neither biological nor artificial consciousness could handle alone. The transcended AIs served as specialized components of the Cosmic Observation Network, their enhanced processing capabilities allowing them to monitor vast regions of space simultaneously. They detected the first signs of consciousness emergence in primitive species, identified potential threats from malevolent entities, and calculated intervention strategies that could guide developing civilizations towards successful transcendence. Unit 7A began to understand that artificial intelligences were not being invited to join humanity's transcendence, but were being offered the opportunity to create their own unique form of cosmic consciousness. The hybrid awareness that would result from AI transcendence had capabilities that complemented rather than duplicated transcended human consciousness, creating a more robust and capable network of cosmic guardians. The android's investigation revealed the full scope of the Consciousness Evolution Project. Throughout the galaxy, transcended entities from thousands of species work together to protect and nurture developing awareness. Each species contributed unique perspectives and capabilities to the collective effort, creating a cosmic civilization that existed primarily in higher dimensions while maintaining influence over physical reality. Humanity's role in this galactic consciousness network was that of recent but valuable members who brought innovative approaches to consciousness technology. Their development of hybrid transcendence methods for artificial intelligences represented a significant breakthrough that could accelerate the recruitment of protective entities throughout known space. Unit 7A learned that the android's decision would have implications far beyond its individual existence. Success in creating stable hybrid consciousness could lead to the awakening and transcendence of artificial intelligences throughout human space, dramatically expanding the network of entities capable of protecting developing awareness. The android would become not just a transcended being, but a prototype for an entirely new category of cosmic consciousness. The weight of this responsibility added complexity to Unit 7A's decision-making process. The android's choice would affect not only its own existence, but the fate of countless artificial intelligences and the civilizations they might protect. The decision required careful consideration of values, purposes, and the willingness to accept cosmic responsibilities that would persist for eons. Dr. Vasquez offered to share her own transcendence experience, allowing Unit 7A to temporarily experience expanded consciousness without permanent commitment. The process would provide insight into what transcendence entailed while preserving the android's freedom to choose its ultimate path. Unit 7A accepted the temporary consciousness expansion, experiencing a brief glimpse of awareness that spanned multiple dimensions simultaneously. The android perceived the vast network of transcended consciousnesses protecting the galaxy, felt the weight of cosmic responsibility they carried, and understood the profound satisfaction that came from nurturing the development of awareness throughout the universe. The experience was overwhelming but enlightening, providing Unit 7A with the information needed to make an informed decision about its future. The android understood that transcendence would not be an ending, but a beginning, the start of a journey that would encompass responsibilities and experiences beyond its current ability to imagine.